Welcome to Oncology Revolution, where science meets care to transform the cancer journey. We explore evidence-based strategies to enhance quality of life, promote longevity, and empower patients and professionals to thrive beyond cancer.
So, Dana Donofree is a breast cancer survivor, and through her own experience with breast cancer, as well as her professional background, because she studied fashion design at Savannah School of Design, Art and Design, she was able to create a collection of lingerie that is specially designed for women that are dealing with breast cancer. So whether they do keep their breast, they do keep just one, they do reconstruction or have no reconstruction whatsoever, those are items that are really amazing because they really are able to be used for pretty much every situation. So I welcome you today, Dana. Thank you so much for having joined us. And please let us know how it all started. You were very young, I know that. So explain a little bit about your story and how AnaOno started.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sophia, for having me and bringing so many of these great stories to light here. So, yes, you're right. I can now say I was very young. I didn't feel very young when I was first diagnosed. I got diagnosed in 2010 at the age of 27. I found a lump completely on accident. I live in the United States, and we don't start screening until our 40s. So I was in the shower and accidentally just brushed up against a lump in the top part of my breast tissue and thought to myself, well, I don't think that was there before. And this was at the very early ages of sort of the dense breast tissue conversation. And my sister and my best friend had both been to the doctor and had checked out sort of like lumpy breasts. And I thought to myself, oh, well, they did it. I should go to the doctor too. And unfortunately, my lump in my breast did not turn out to be only dense breast tissue, although I did also have dense breast tissue. It turned out to be stage 1, HER2 positive, ER positive, invasive ductal carcinoma.
That would have been very scary. I mean, at such a young age. And did you have any other family members with that had breast cancer or other type of cancer or not at all?
I did, but not enough to, have any sort of like familiar, conversations about cancer as a risk of a family. My mom's sister had breast cancer in her 30s, now 40 something years ago. And my mom's mom, so my grandmother, passed away of colon cancer, which was my great aunt. But so there was some presence of cancer in our family, but it was not generation after generation after generation or closely connected. So, getting a diagnosis at 27, of course, everybody was like, "Well, is it family related?" And they deemed that it was not.
It was not, yes. And that is a good thing also to talk about because, I mean, we know through the factual numbers that cancer in general is reaching younger and younger people due to many different factors in life. So that's also a good awareness to make people realize that you can be in your 20s and it still can happen to you. So it's very good to be very open about it and talk about it so that people really realize how important that is. And what was happening in your life when you were diagnosed?
Yeah, I was living the life that any 20-year-old is supposed to live. I, was climbing my corporate ladder. I was getting promoted at work. I was engaged to be married. We had just relocated to Colorado and from hustle and bustle life of New York City, and had our wedding planned in 3 months when I received my diagnosis. So we had to postpone the wedding, and I had to, focus on my surgeries and my treatments and everything else. But, horribly disruptive. I mean, just hearing those words as a 27-year-old was probably the scariest thing I had ever encountered in my entire life, and just had no idea what to expect or what was going to happen to me.
And were you able to get any type of local support when you were living, or it was just mostly you were just dealing with the doctors and that was it?
In 2010, it was just such a different world. I mean, I sort of laugh. I'm like, I don't even think my first Instagram post was until like 2013 or something like that, So I don't even think Twitter existed. Yeah, and we weren't living our lives on smartphones or the internet. We were living in real life, and the biggest struggle for me, finding support was, of course, I had my friends, and of course, I had my family. I'm very grateful for those that stuck through me through it. But when you're in your 20s, your friends don't necessarily know what to do when you get diagnosed with breast cancer. I lost a lot of friendships. I had to find new ones, forge new ones, and finding support as a young woman back then was like nearly impossible. I think the youngest woman I got diagnosed to that had also been diagnosed with breast cancer was 55 years old. And, now that I'm in my early 40s and I'm really grateful to be here, I understand greatly the difference between a 27-year-old and a 55-year-old. Um, Somebody, I'm looking, am I going to get married? Can I even have children? And they're celebrating their first grandbabies. It's not the same time of life to really be able to associate. So I really dealt with my cancer diagnosis alone.
Yes, there is a big age gap between very different generations, as you were saying. And that makes it harder because at a time not having any type of support group, especially for young people that are diagnosed with any type of cancer, it really makes you feel like you are the odd person in a group in a way.
Yeah.
hmm And that
Yeah.
makes it that much tougher. So you were diagnosed, you were treated. I mean, you've been doing amazingly well, thankfully so. And so, what inspired you to start with AnaOno?
Well, I mean, being a young woman diagnosed with breast cancer, I had opted for a double mastectomy surgery. I had breast implant reconstruction. And that process took about almost 9 to 10 months to get through all of that. And as I was dealing with, first of all, the mastectomy surgery, um, in 2010, there was a version of like an expander, and it was kind of like a square. And so I called them my SpongeBob square tits, because my you could literally see the outline of the expander on my chest. And so when I was dealing with dressing myself, I understood why you couldn't fit a square peg into a round hole. We all know that.
Yes.
Doesn't usually work. And I was wearing sports bras, I was wearing camisoles, if I was wearing anything at all, quite frankly, because I was so uncomfortable. But I think that the difference of that experience was I was still going to work. I was not afforded the luxury to stay home and recover. I had to go back to work. I had to pay my bills. I had to pay for my insurance. I had to pay for all of my out-of-pocket deductibles and, everything else that, we have the opportunity to do in the United States, which is, I know different around the world. And so I was trying to go to work. I was trying to, dress professionally and be professional. And while my hair was gone and my eyebrows were gone, and, I've got these like building blocks on my chest. It was just such an awkward time of life. It was so awkward. And I just was always like kind of grasping for like, what was this problem? Like, why was I not feeling good about myself? Why was I not confident? Why couldn't I fit into my clothes? And after having my exchange surgery, where I went from the expanders into the implants, I thought, okay, I'm better now. Now I can go back and I can wear all of my old bras. Well, the reality was is nothing fit me anymore. And if it did fit me, it cost me so much pain and discomfort that I would just be, run. I remember going to work in a bra that I had bought at a store because they told me it was the bra I needed to wear. And it was no later than my drive to my office. I was in the bathroom taking off my undergarments at work. Like, this is not a normal thing that we should be dealing with. And it's not something that we feel is appropriate as an adult. So, after like just going through like all of this experience over and over and sort of being at that point catapulted into this world that was like made for a much more mature woman than I was, and seeing this plethora of beige mastectomy bras, just like awful. I woke up in the middle of the night and it really did hit me out of the blue. And I said to myself, this is why I'm struggling. This is why I don't feel good about myself. It's why my confidence is so low. It's why I'm in extra pain, all because I don't have a bra that fits my body. And I took my fashion design background. I said, who's kind of crazy enough to do this? I have the experience. I'm a young woman with breast cancer, and I'm kind of crazy enough to start my own business. So let's try it. And AnaOno was born, and we launched in May of 2014. So we're, officially a 10-year-old business soon in just a few short months. And we're, sold. I think I have shipped a bra somewhere in this world at least once. And that makes me really, really proud and honored to get to serve the community in such a way.
Yeah, no, it is amazing how you were able, through your background with fashion, to come up with that. Because indeed, I mean, I do recall living in the States that there really weren't that many choices for us younger
Mm.
women to even, not just, you were talking about that beige, that typical beige looking bra, but it was not even just that. They were more for elderly ladies, let's say, and they were not sexy, they were not sensual. And when you're young, I mean, of course, you still want to feel
Yeah.
young, you want to feel sexy, you want to feel sensual. You had just gotten married, so and even if you would not, you still were, a normal. I mean, not that there is a special age bracket to date, but still, I mean, you wanted to feel like a woman, correct? So those details are very important.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I mean, it wasn't but maybe a year or 2 years I had started AnaOno, and I got my first phone call from an incredible woman in Arizona. And she picked up the phone and she said to me, she goes, "Girl, I am 76 years old." She goes, "My husband's been dead for 20 years." She goes, "I don't buy pretty undergarments for anybody but myself." And she had had breast cancer 10 years ago. And she goes, "I have not worn a pretty bra since I got breast cancer. And then I found you." And she just encouraged me to keep going. And she told me that, sexiness doesn't have any age limits or boundaries. And I was very impressionable. I was probably 29 or 30 years old at this point, thinking to myself, you go, girl. But it did open my eyes because for such a long time, I did say to myself, it's because I'm young, I want to feel beautiful. It's because I'm young, I want to feel sexy. It's because I'm young, I'm so frustrated with this world of breast cancer that's really, in essence, designed for my grandmother. But then I talked to her and I said, you know what? We all deserve it. We all deserve to feel good and feel beautiful and feel confident, no matter, you know, where we are, no matter what our surgery outcome is, no matter what our staging is. If you want to feel good, you should deserve to and get the opportunity to feel good.
Yeah. Now, another question, because that is one thing I was really surprised when I got to learn more about your whole collection, is that the way you design the bras really works for someone who's flat, as well as someone who has one flat and one still your own breast, or already with reconstruction. I mean, you really were able to engineer, let's say. I mean, perhaps that
Mhm.
might not be the
Yeah.
right word, but you understand what I'm saying. And that's what really makes, to me, your collection amazing compared to others that now are in the market, is that the exact same bra actually works for someone that decides to go flat, someone that is flat on one side, someone that has had a full mastectomy and reconstruction. So what was the secret behind that? I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of experimenting to do for that, and many other factors.
Well, first, Sophia, we say two boobs, one boob, no boobs, or new boobs. We're here to support you. And you said it perfectly because, for me, it was, any surgical outcome is the right surgical outcome if that's the outcome that you want.
Yeah.
And I think for a very long time, this industry has been built with the uh, assumption that as women, we should walk around living with two breasts. and that every single woman wants to have two breasts. Well, what if you don't? Where where are those options? Where are those choices? And it was so quickly knitted into the concept of AnaOno was a few things that you just touched on. One was the most disturbing piece for me when I was diagnosed, and I went and I was looking for a mastectomy bra, was that all of these models on all of these company websites were just that, models, beautiful people with beautiful natural cleavage, living a healthy life. Well, these companies wanted me, a breast cancer patient who now has scars or radiation burns or whatever the aftermath is, to look at a gorgeous, healthy woman with beautiful cleavage. I just felt like it was such a slap in the face that all of these companies had been established for so long and nobody represented a breast cancer patient. Were we not beautiful enough to show the intimates that you are trying to sell to us with somebody with no boobs and breast prosthetics put into the cups? So I knew from the beginning that if I was going to do this, I was going to be representative of the community of which I was serving, because I felt like I wanted to see myself. I wanted to know what I would look like in a bra, because even still, these bras didn't fit me, you know? And so my experience was, in same ways I did with my body, I very much had to deconstruct a bra to reconstruct one that fit my new body. And so I knew everything that didn't work. I knew I couldn't wear underwires. I knew the cups were too bubbly or too pointy, that it left like air bubbles where my apex used to be. Certain materials, most materials that are made for bras, polyester, or woven materials, non-stretchable, non-adaptable, because the bras were designed for our bodies to have a certain appearance underneath our clothing. Well, now my prostheses are permanently attached to my body. There's other women that use breast forms, and there's other women that live their life flat, right? And so I think what ended up happening was because of my root um, concept being energized by representing the community of which I was a part of. When I did some of my very first fitting events, I mean, like, these moments just like bring like nothing but like huge smiles to my face, because all I could do was like call my friends and say, hey, you want to come over and have some wine and cheese and, take off your clothes and try on bras? For some reason, people did it. For some reason, people trusted me and they did it. And what happened was, when my friends came over, that's exactly what I got. I got some friends that didn't reconstruct. I had some friends that only lost one breast. I had some friends that had lumpectomies and radiation, and their breasts were two sizes different than their natural side. I had friends that reconstructed with implants. I had friends that reconstructed with their own tissue, like a flap surgery. And every time I just would say, well, I don't know. Let's see if the bra fits, you know? And there was just like, it was just this natural evolution. And then when I would put on a bra that didn't fit, I would say, okay, this bra isn't working for you, but I have an idea of something that will, because I was always trying to solve for whatever the body type was that I was fitting at the time. And I think because I encompass everybody, it really did provide a collection that fit all different chest types.
Exactly. And then from there, you expanded the collection with so many other items. And one of them that I absolutely also loved were the ones with the little pockets, because, of course, after we go through surgery, we have the drains, and we never know what to do with those drains. We cover them up one way or the other so that we can go out and still have a normal life, go to work, whatnot. Planes, that hang around. So you created those belts and even, the pants with the so that was also a marvelous idea. And how, I mean, I'm sure that, again, through your own experience, you went through that process, right?
Oh, I would say if we were to survey every breast cancer patient around the globe about what was the worst part of the mastectomy surgery, if not number one, definitely number two will be the drains. I mean, it is a consistency from everybody. They're not only uncomfortable, they're gross. And you don't, I always say you don't know what you don't know. And even though the doctors say, oh, well, you're going to leave surgery and you're going to have 2 drains. Well, what if you've never had surgery before? I, I don't even know if I knew what drains were. I mean, it's such a bizarre, you really, really feel like a science project. You feel like a patient. You're walking around with these tentacles. These tentacles are creating like blood and fluid and ooze and whatever's coming out of those things. I still don't even know. And then you have to like sit there and empty them for days, if not weeks for some people. And so, yes, I remember my own personal experience. And again, this is in 2010. There was very, very limited resources and access to really anything. I had never had a major surgery before. I think my most major surgery was having my wisdom teeth removed. And, I went and I said, okay, well, what do you leave the hospital in? You leave a hospital in, a sweatsuit, a sweatshirt, and some sweatpants. Big deal. Well, I didn't know I wasn't going to be able to raise my hands above my head in order to put my sweatshirt on. And my friends ran out. They got me a zipper hoodie. They came back to the hospital, and I had to take these drains that were safety pinned and pin them to the top of my hoodie. So I'm being rolled out of the hospital in a hoodie with these bloody bulbs attached to my face practically. And I just thought, I'm like, this is so humanizing. Where is my dignity? Where do I put these things? And my doctor told me, go buy a Home Depot tool belt. I said, you want me to what? Like, what do you want me to do? But it's just these little things. It's these little things that we experience as patients, where for me, that was the moment that my friends were coming over to see me. My coworkers were coming to my house to drop me off food. My neighbors were coming over to help us clean or take out the dog. And I have these bloody bulbs safety pinned to my clothing. It's just, you just want to live your life as a human with a little bit of dignity intact. And that's really what drove me to kind of like think of these solutions. It's like, you're already a hot mess. You haven't showered for 3 or 4 days. Like, there's only so much hot mess you can take until, it's too much. It's too much.
So you created that whole collection then a lot, already with the pants, with the little pockets so that you could put the drains, correct? To make at least you feel like a normal person and more
Correct.
comfortable also in a way because they are comfortable. They are almost like yogi type of pants
Mhm.
inside for someone who went through what we do go through. So that's also amazing. And it's great also because, I mean, you know, sure, we, the two of us, went through breast cancer, but any other surgery, that's what's amazing too
Yeah.
about your collections that even though it was designed for people with breast cancer, because that was your experience, pretty much anyone can use them. For example, the sports bra. My daughter, the personal trainer, she uses one of the sports bra. Why? Because it is very comfortable. I mean, if
Mhm.
it's comfortable for anyone that um, goes through breast cancer, that, as we talked about, has or no boobs, has or no implants, for someone, let's say, that still has their natural boobs, of course, it's going to be even more, even more so comfortable. So, and the same thing with the pants with the the little pockets and everything else,
Mhm.
not just for breast cancer but for pretty much any operation that someone goes through that has the drains, they can be used.
Well, I started off saying I'm designing bras for the most uncomfortable people that exist. So really just everybody gets to reap that benefit, quite frankly. And I think what's been so beautiful to see AnaOno evolve itself over like the 10 years is that yes, it was created for a necessity that I had because I had breast cancer. But the reality is there are so many other ailments that also need, we often say that we're a traditional bra for the untraditional. And meaning like, we have a lot of customers that will shop us because they have lung cancer and their torsos are just really sensitive and they just are uncomfortable. Underwire bras can cause a lot of discomfort, when you're not comfortable. We have open heart surgery. when women can't hook their bras behind their back, but they know they have to keep themselves connected and compressed. So if they cough or anything, they can protect their open hearts surgeries, shoulder surgeries. I'm I'm sort of surprised. We're hearing a lot of pickleball injuries. But, there's just a reality, and then there's, like, the natural development of breast tissue, right? Some people can have Poland syndrome. Some people can have very dramatic natural breasts where they're a cup to 2 cup sizes different, and, a lot of post-nursing moms. Because, your breasts are always evolving, right? Maybe cancer has complicated things. Maybe you've had children. Maybe you're undergoing cosmetic surgery, either, early in your life or later in your life. Gender affirming surgeries. Your chest and body evolve over time. And we just want to make sure that we're there from point of surgery through recovery into the healing and into the life beyond. Because, for some of our customers, they'll never go back to wearing a regular bra again. A regular underwire free, on most shelves in most intimate departments. And my dream and my passion is that wherever you shopped for your intimates before breast cancer, you should be able to shop for your intimates after breast cancer. And if that's with AnaOno, great. But if that's just with like mainstream lingerie companies saying, we're going to design a bra or two for this community, also great. Because we shouldn't be forgotten about because we've dealt with these things just because we don't fit into the typical mold, right? There's many millions of us living and existing in this globe that have had our breasts change because of a cancer diagnosis. And that happens, everywhere.
No, of course, of course, of course. Now, the other thing that's, I mean, and being your own boss, let's say, having started that, I'm sure there were moments that were extremely scary financially for you. Uh, you were still very young. You had just gotten married. Then you decided to move to Pennsylvania, correct? After being in Colorado. So, how was that whole? I mean, and after also going through cancer, because I mean, of course, after you go through cancer, there are, especially the first 5 years, still that anxiety. I mean, throughout life, but especially the first 5 years, that anxiety when you go through exams, when you go to see oncology, whatnot, and starting a brand new project.
Well, you should ask my husband. He has a very different answer than I do.
I'm sure he must have been very supportive through all you.
Yeah, it's uh I think there's a lot of different answers to this question, but to sum it all up, I think what I've been able to reflect and recognize was that AnaOno has been such a huge part of my own personal healing and my own personal experience. And maybe that is in part because I am a creative. And I have been a designer, and I never sort of call myself an artist because actually don't think I'm creative enough to be an artist. But um, I've always been creative, and I've danced my whole life. I started making clothing when I was 8 years old. I was so fortunate that I got to go to an amazing art school, Savannah College of Art and Design, and start my career in fashion design in New York City. It is who I am at the core, and I'm grateful that I've gotten to start my own company, but in the reality of it all, I'm more fortunate that AnaOno was there for me because it was my outlet to express so many things I was unable to express in my real life. I've always sort of said that AnaOno is my alter ego because she got to be feminine when I didn't feel feminine at all. She got to be beautiful when I felt my ugliest. She got to be confident and share with the world these experiences about breast cancer when I really had no idea what I was doing or what I was experiencing or what my emotions were or anything. But I was able to use AnaOno as an outlet to share my experience and talk about what I was faced with and what I was dealing with as such a young woman. And And in a lot of ways, the progression of me hitting 15 years in February and AnaOno turning 10, it's like yes, it is a business. Yes, I am the CEO. Yes, we are growing. But, in the reality of it, it's just I look at it and I'm so grateful and thankful that I get to do this every day. Um, because it is more than just a bra. I think one of the proudest moments was our 2017 New York Fashion Week show when we showed the world what breast cancer looked like. And we had models with and without their breasts, with and without nipples. And, we went viral on New York Times overnight. It was this moment where I had such a fear for my own personal career, my own personal success and contribution I was giving to myself in the fashion industry. And then going on this global stage called New York Fashion Week and showing the world what cancer looked like. I was like, I'm either making the best decision of my life or the worst decision of my life. I don't know which one it is. Well, but it worked out. It worked out.
But it's not only worked out, but I mean, the amazing thing, and that's the other part that I would like you to talk a bit more about, is that it's not just your company. I mean, it's your life, it's your company, but it's everything that you also contribute to the community. I mean, every time that you did New York Fashion Week, a part of the process, the parts that you would help out, like Metaviver and many other women. I mean, just the fact, for example, that to bring women to New York Fashion Week to make them feel like $1 million in a way, because I mean, who has a chance to actually say, "Oh yeah, I walked in New York Fashion Week." I mean, that alone is an amazing moment of healing for a woman that goes through
Mhm.
cancer. Uh, but afterwards, also all the processes also afterwards going to groups that need the money. So I mean, because it's one thing is you starting the business and you having a great career. The other thing is to give back, and you do that a lot. So I'd love for you to talk a bit more how you start getting involved with all of these parts of the community helping and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, when I say we're more than just a bra, that's, it's very much what I believe in. We still have to sell our product, we still have to make money, we still have to operate, we still have to function. That is the sad, unfortunate world of business. But to me, giving back is a part of our ethos and a part of something that is required for the work that we do. And a huge piece of what I've advocated for is stage 4 metastatic breast cancer research. And the reason being is because when I was diagnosed at 27 years old, I can say I have lost more friends than I can count at this point of time in my life. And when I was getting diagnosed as a young woman, my friends were also getting diagnosed and living only 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. There was a point of time I was going to a funeral every single month. And my drug that I was able to receive for my cancer markers got to market because of all of the women that sacrificed their lives and their cancer experiences to get that drug through the clinical trial so it became accessible to my generation of those that were afflicted by breast cancer. I would not be alive if that drug never hit the market. We know this. That is scientifically proven. We cannot get the drugs to market if we do not research for them and we find the markers and we can target the therapy. And I mean, I have chills all over my body because I know the army is like tickling me right now. But it's just we have to push forward for this change. I know not every country's stats are as well tracked as the United States, and I can argue that the United States results are not well tracked either. But if we're dying 116 people a day of the disease called breast cancer, we have got to do something about it. And we cannot keep celebrating survival rates that have increased since we introduced modern medicine, i.e., chemotherapy, 20 years ago. Because we should be doing better at this point. We should have targeted therapies. We should have opportunities to live longer. And that really is why I advocate for stage 4 metastatic breast cancer research, why AnaOno advocates for it. Because to me, if we fund that sector, it's a trickle-down effect. The next person that gets diagnosed that has the marker that's been identified is going to have a better path through their treatment, because we're not going to stop the cancer from happening. Maybe we will one day, probably not in our lifetime, unfortunately, Sophia, but maybe one day we will. And I hope that we see that, but for now we have to treat it. And, I think of all of these young women that enter our lives that are diagnosed and they just had their first baby.
Mhm.
Those babies may not have mothers. That's where we need to be working. We need to be saving lives, because if we can treat it, we can live longer. And that's all we really want, For the median survivorship of a stage 4 diagnosis to be 36 months, for an early stage diagnosis to be 5 years, we can do better. Let's do better, And so we've donated over $250,000 to stage 4 research with our efforts, amongst many other nonprofits and organizations. But to me, that's really the most important.
No, no, and it is true. Unfortunately, more often than not, stage 4 is forgotten, even by us survivors. That we forget that it can happen to us. I mean, it can happen
Mhm.
to anyone. And I did notice that within the breast cancer community, many times, just because we're stage 0 up to stage 3, we don't really think about stage 4.
Mm.
And I do love that, for example, you even call stage 4 the thrivers, which is a beautiful word for them. Uh, and it's true, because you know, even if we want to think of it in a selfish way, the more we help out stage 4, the more chances we end up having one day if we end up being in that situation. So
Right.
let's be selfish thinking that way, and let's be selfish,
100%.
helping out, because it's not just helping
Mhm.
others, but it might be helping us or our kids one day. Who knows?
100%. Absolutely.
So, and yes, so in a way, both prevention, which is also amazingly important, and we need to do even more so in terms of prevention and talk about it uh, with the younger crowd, as well as the stage 4, putting the most money we can into clinical trials, into figuring out what else we can do to help them.
Mhm.
That's, yeah, the key is there. Yes, you are totally right about that. And as you said, I mean, you also help out many other organizations, right?
Well, I think it's, for me, the priority is stage 4 and then patient support programs. From earlier in my story, I shared how I was utterly alone navigating my breast cancer diagnosis. And as a 27/28-year-old woman at that point, it's very difficult. Even for the first 5 years, navigating my relationship, my sexual health, my uh, body confidence and body dysmorphia, PTSD, side effects from early menopause. The list can go on and on. There was nowhere to turn to. And I think that my work as an advocate, but also with AnaOno, is how do we impact the patient experience? Because if we can improve the lives, and we talked a little about the drain belts and the bras, my ultimate goal is if I can just save one woman from crying in a dressing room because she feels less than, or, bras don't fit her. She doesn't feel sexy. She doesn't feel beautiful. Like, I have done a job. I have done my job that day. And, because I don't want anybody crying in every dressing room that I went into, just like I had that experience. It was so debilitating to my mental and physical well-being, really, And so it's just these like little pieces that we can impact along the way. What if, we can get attainable, healthy nutrition so we can improve our lives. Attainable, safe beauty products, good food, good, balance our levels of stress. I love it when they tell a cancer patient, lower your stress.
Oh, exactly.
I have cancer. Okay, cool. Let's talk about that. But we undercut the importance of like mental well-being. Which, if we know stress is driving cancer, why aren't we giving cancer patients mental support? One feeds the other, you know?
The mental support, the nutrition, as you already talked about, the exercise, which
Mhm.
there's still a lot of people thinking that just because you're going through chemo, you should not exercise. Absolutely not. Because the exercise not just helps you for your body, but it also helps your mental part. So all of those components are amazingly important. And these supports, of breasties, of, being with other women that are going through it because they understand you much better than someone who has not gone through it. And that's I
Exactly.
think that you yourself created a community, just your own models. Every single model on your website, on the social media, every single model is a breast cancer survivor, and they are beautiful women. I mean, you really make an effort to bring the best out of them. And it's beautiful. It's really, it impacts their lives, not just with New York Fashion Week, but through the photo shoots
Mhm.
for your own products, the information that you keep on adding onto the website as well as the social media, asking questions, getting us involved, not even in terms of buying a product, but getting us involved in what is our story,
Mhm.
share your thoughts. What else can we do to help out? And that's what's really interesting about AnaOno is that it's much more than a bra. It's much more than really is a community.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that because I think that the stories, in some ways, I get to hear all of them. And, I've been so educated and I've been so informed. And, we've heard the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I feel my own personal objective is that if you can talk out loud about it, you can remove the layers of the fear that are associated with it. And that started very, very early on in my own survivorship was when I was talking about creating AnaOno and I was doing a lot of these press articles and I was sharing my story. And I kept telling these writers like how I couldn't get intimate with my fiance, now my husband, because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. And at one point in time, my husband said to me, he said, "When are you going to stop telling the world about our sex life?" And and I said to him, I said, "The second that somebody else starts." Because the problem was when I was creating Ana Ono, nobody was talking about the sexual disturbance of cancer patients. And especially to a young generation. I mean, this is a huge part of your life. And nobody was I had no idea. I was totally blindsided by all of these challenges I was gonna experience, both physically and mentally and, psychologically because of the menopause, because of the surgeries, because of the treatment, because of the trauma. And I really had to navigate that on my own, and now look at us. Look at how far we've come, right? We have sexual health and well-being seminars. We have gynecologists talking about, alternatives and ways and things that you can do to help yourself with the menopausal side effects. We're talking about body image. Um, I remember my first scar photos hitting the internet and just reading the comments and people saying, "Oh, how disgusting I was, and how could I mutilate my body in this way and do all of these things?" And, fast forward, my mastectomy tattoo photo was in Reader's Digest. Like, but Daily Mail posted, so many people told my story very early on and it was not well received. And now, I don't think I can open up my Instagram profile without seeing somebody's mastectomy tattoo. So it's might be my algorithm.
That is amazing, though. That is absolutely fantastic because it does show that there is a change happening.
Right.
You were part of that change, which is even better, of course. And you keep on being part of that change because every day there's something else and some other way that you are able to help. Um, even just alone, for example, the costs. The first time that I ordered, for example, from you, I thought, okay, all the way to Portugal, we'll see. And I was kind of shocked. I'm kind of, no, it's still cheaper than me going to the store here and get one that's still not going to fit me 100%. So, and those are small details that make a big difference for someone that is going through it. Because as you know, here we are in Portugal, we are lucky because we have socialized medicine. We can, yes, go to the private, but as you know, in the United States, the costs are not, um, very low. Uh, but the fact that at least you have a chance to have some type of um underwear, lingerie that is absolutely gorgeous, that makes you feel like a woman and still being very much within your budget. That's also very, very important. And the materials, I mean, of course, are fantastic. So it's everything together, plus the message that you give to everyone, the care that you really put into not just the brand, of course, but the people within the company, the people within the community, and clients or people that follow your pages. I mean, that's really is what makes AnaOno, and that's beautiful. And I thank you for that, really.
Yeah, and that to me is, my ultimate energy and push forward is that, I've read stories from women around the world, and they're all dramatically different depending on where you live. But the one thing that is consistent is we want to feel good about ourselves, and we want to feel comfortable, and we want to feel seen. And it doesn't matter where you are, Portugal, India, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Australia, you know, Italy, anywhere. And so, yeah, I encourage anybody who's, tapping in here is, we can help. We can help and we can be there. But, we're a small business and we're always, I want to conquer the world, but, I can only do so much. So, email me.
No, but you have been doing a lot for the past 10 years, and as you self said, I mean, not just for the community, but even for yourself, because I mean,
Yeah.
I said that it was in a way your own therapy also, which makes a lot of sense to me, and that's important. So, you know, um, yeah, and what are the plans for Anna Ono and yourself in the next, who knows, 1, 5 years?
Well, whoever knows what our plans are in the next 5 years, but my goals really are to continue to be a consistent and reliable space for people to come and get the support that they need and they deserve. That will never change. So we're always pushing to bridge the gap between the treatment and care and the lifestyle of the patient. We're excited to launch our own breast forms here in about a month or two. We keep working to help, patients get the insurance coverage here in the United States. It works different throughout the EU and other countries, but that's really important to us here. And of course, if I was to dream big and create what does AnaOno look like in 20 years, I've always said that I hope the world doesn't need me and that I get to close my doors and I get to go on my next adventure because we no longer have to remove breasts in order to save a woman's life. And if I can see that in my lifetime, I will die a very happy, proud, and strong woman. And I hope I get that privilege.
Wow. I couldn't think of better words to end this conversation. I mean, it's beautiful what you just said. I mean, and you are right. And I believe that pretty much anyone that has gone through this is really what they want, for themselves, for their kids, for other people in their lives. And thank you very much for all the work you do. Um, Thank you for keeping on posting and being such an advocate to this cause that is very important. Also, the fact that you, in a way, are like a mentor and someone for people to look up to start a business. Even in the worst of times, you can still come up with things to create a new lifestyle for yourself
Yeah.
and to better, not just yourself, but to better the world. And, yes, it takes guts. Yes, I'm sure it's scary, but it can be done. It can.
I said, what's the worst that could happen? I had cancer. What do I do? Fail? Okay, fine.
Well, thank you so much for this time. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It has been a fabulous talk. I don't think we do have any questions here. Perhaps you might have answered them throughout the talk. But I mean, you are an inspiring person. So thank you
Thank you.
for doing what you're doing. As you said, it would be amazing if one day you don't have to do it, but for now we need you in this world. So thank you, and I'm sure that we'll have many other opportunities in the future to have other talks and to create even more connections throughout this world. Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you.
thank you. Bye.